Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the virtual tour of Intentional Communities event. We are here in April 2024 for yet another exploration of intentional communities. And I'm very excited about today's event because it's the first time after almost 2 years of doing these shows that I get to present my community where I live, along with hearing from the Hive in Portland, Oregon, and Village Hearth Co-housing in North Carolina. So very excited for this event. Welcome, everyone. Great to have you here with us. And I will start things off with a brief presentation. I'll just share my screen here. Okay. So yes, this is the virtual tour of Intentional Communities event. Every month on the first Thursday, we sit down with 3 different intentional communities. And sometimes they are spiritual communities, sometimes they're in Europe, sometimes they are focused on growing food. We try to have a mix of community types. And today in particular, we have a variety of different models of community living, including the more ecovillage kind of community where I live, the co-housing community at Village Hearth, and the more shared housing version of community living at the Hive. So I'm going to look forward to comparing and contrasting these different models and different ways that communal living can look. And I'll continue on. We are hosting this event on StreamYard. So if you did register through ic.org, or if you are a member of the Community Finder Circle, I will be prioritizing your questions and your comments because you did register for the event. But hello also to all the places that we're streaming on YouTube and Facebook, etc. Great to have everyone here. I'm really going to encourage the folks who registered to please ask your questions, to use the comment feature, to have this be an interactive conversation. And I'll do my best to make sure to field as many of your questions as we can. And if I don't get to them all, I'll direct our presenters to respond to you in the comments. So go ahead now and find that chat box. And if you've been on our events before, you know the drill. Please share where you are calling in from. If you live in an intentional community, let me know which one. Also, let me know if you would like to be featured on this event. We're always looking for new communities to present, so feel free to sneak that into your message. And also let me know what you hope to learn or get out of this session. Are you just curious about communities? Are you looking for a community to join? Are you thinking about starting a community or already actively developing one? That'd be really helpful if you could go ahead and put that into the chat box. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share some more announcements and more information about this event. So these virtual tours are being published on the FIC, that's the Foundation for Intentional Communities YouTube channel. So you can go onto the YouTube channel and watch many, many past virtual tour events and really get, I think, broad exposure to the different types of communities without necessarily needing to go and travel to visit them. And this event is a joint partnership between the Foundation for Intentional Community and my organization, Community Finders, where we offer programs to support people on their path towards community living. So if you're not familiar with FIC, nonprofit organization, been around for decades and decades supporting this movement of intentional communities. And they do that in a wide variety of ways, including events like this, which are run on a donation basis. So if you feel inspired to support the FIC, go ahead and make a donation. It's always really helpful to get that grassroots support from the audience to further develop and uplift FIC's programs, which do help the movement broadly. So you can also learn more about community finders. I've linked the website there, communityfinders.com. And of course, hello to all of the members of the Community Finders Circle who get to connect with one another and support each other on the journey towards finding a community to join. So welcome to you. And today in particular, I want to highlight another organization that I have founded called Ecovillage Tours. And not many people know that I actually have this other whole initiative that started back in 2019. We got slowed down with COVID, but we're really ramping up hosting tours of different ecovillages and intentional communities around the world. And you can learn more about that at ecovillagetours.com. We did recently put out an Ecovillages travel guide. So if you want to learn more about the tours that we're offering, but also more in general, like tips and tricks for actually contacting and going to visit communities, that's a free guidebook that's available at ecovillagetours.com/guidebook. And part of the reason that I'm mentioning this today is because we're on April 4th right now. In a few days, on Sunday, April 7th, that's when our early bird ticket sale is going to end for our summer tours. So this summer in June, we're offering tours to Costa Rica and Slovenia. And then in July, we're offering a tour to Vermont, which is my community will be featured in Vermont, and I'm going to be guiding the Vermont tour. And so I'm going to talk more about the Vermont tour in my presentation. But yeah, want to make sure that's on your radar so you can get the best possible deal on our upcoming tours and really make sure that your summer is full of continuing this process of researching and learning about communities, and especially the most valuable thing of all, actually going and visiting and spending time in these different centers and places where people live and really practice what it means to be in community. So let's see. Yeah, that's all that I have. We're going to get ready here shortly to hear from our first presenter. And the format, if you're new, is that we hear from each presenter for about 10 minutes. And then in the following 10 minutes, you get the opportunity to ask your questions. So as the presenters are sharing, really think about what questions do I have? Go ahead and put those in the comment box so that we're all ready to ask our questions when the presenters are finished. It's always a good idea to have a notebook handy, have something to drink nearby. We're going to be together for about an hour and a half. Yeah, and just encourage you to relax into your seat or wherever you might be right now and let go of whatever else may be happening earlier in your day. If you're able to remove distractions for this next hour or so, that is wonderful. And prepare to give your full attention to our presenters. And we are going to kick things off with the Hive community in Portland, Oregon, and we have Lior here with us to share. I'm really excited to learn about your community, Lior, and thank you for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you. Glad to be here and to be able to share a little bit. I'll share my screen so that you can see some pictures. The presentation is essentially just some pictures with me sharing a little bit in the background. So it's going to be fairly informal.
That's great.
All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Lior. I live in Portland, Oregon, in a community called the Hive. I became interested in intentional communities in general about 15 years ago when I joined one kind of by accident my last year in college, and then traveling and working seasonally for several years after that, I had the opportunity to visit, to live in, spend some time in maybe a dozen or so different communities, got to see a lot of different models, and was really sold on the idea that this was how I wanted to live. About 6 years ago, because of a variety of different circumstances, I needed to leave the community that I was living in and decided to, with a couple people that I was living with, start another community. And that's when we started the Hive. So I'm one of the founders of the community from, like I mentioned, about 6 years ago. And this here is a picture from our birthday party from a year ago when we turned 5, and we have had some turnover, so about half of these people don't live in the house anymore. But just a sense of what it looks like. We generally have between 6 to 9 people in the house. Hold up, did I do 2? So a few things about the house that I'll mention. Our model is pretty different from a lot of what I think people generally see at FIC. First of all, we're a renter household. So a lot of people talk, I saw already some questions about ownership models and land models. We have the benefit and the burden of not dealing with that and of just dealing with interacting with a landlord. We are urban, whereas I know a lot of communities here tend to be suburban or rural, or at least on the outskirts of urban areas. And we are a shared household versus a co-housing model. So we have one fairly large house with quite a few bedrooms, and that's essentially the community. We've had anywhere between 6 to 9 members, depending on how many people wanted to live there, when couples wanted to live together, different things like that. One of the things that I find makes us fairly unique, though, even within all of those circumstances, is that our community tries really hard to expand beyond our borders. So we have our members, but we have a lot of people that feel like auxiliary members. And there's a couple of ways that happens. If you look at this picture here, all 4 of these people live in a community that exists down the street from us. We have someone that was living with us for about 3 years, and for a variety of reasons decided that it was time for her to move on. And then a year ago, she started a community and was able to find a house just down the street. So we've been doing more and more collaboration with them. We now do monthly shared dinners with them. We host a block party on our street, and we do that collectively. And so that we would love to have more communities pop up around here and like on our street or in our area, and be able to do more direct collaboration where we have kind of our pod communities in individual homes, but then a shared collection. And then here, these folks over here don't live in the house, but they have been around for a very long time. They started as individual friends of certain people in the house and have really become kind of auxiliary community members. They've hosted their own events at our house. They, come over whenever, and so that's a really big element of how our community functions. There we go. One of the core things that we do at the house is we host a lot of events. The house is when things are like really at their peak, then we usually have 2 to 3 events every month. These days things are a little bit quieter, so it's more like 1 event every month. Sometimes they're just for fun without any specific ideas. Sometimes we'll do specific holidays. I'm Jewish, and so we host a lot of Jewish holidays here. We also do like equinox and solstice. And one of the really cool things about it is that it's been an opportunity for us to connect with a variety of different people. So on the right over here is my mom and my nephew. And I'm really lucky that my parents and my siblings who have kids live in town. And having these events has been a really cool opportunity for my friends who are my age in my community to connect to my family in a way that doesn't feel forced, but more just natural. And so again, there's our community that lives in the house, but then there's also the broader community that comes together for all of the different events. Um, Sorry, I see a question. Repeat. You distinguish that yours is a shared household versus co-housing. So a lot of models are co-housing where like family units will have their own homes, but all of the homes will be together in a shared community model. I believe that the other two communities that are going to share today have something similar to that. Whereas for us, we have 7 people in one house, one kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and like everyone has their own bedroom, but otherwise everything else is shared. Yeah, so as I mentioned, lots of different events. Some of the events are about building out our community of different people in different places. But we also have really tried to engage with our neighbors. And one of the ways that we've tried to do that is having a block party every year, which has been a great way for people to meet, especially for kids to get together. And we're trying to find more and more ways to engage the neighbors as well. We live in an area that has a lot of more like insular nuclear family type of setups, and we're trying to find ways to break those barriers and connect with them and have people connect with us as well. So as far as the membership process, generally speaking, the way that we do it is when a room opens up, we try to tell the world that we have space. We have an application that people fill out. And if everybody thinks that someone that filled out the application seems like a good fit, then we interview them. Part of the idea is we used to have a ton of people come in, and most of them were bad fits, come in to like see the house. And so now we have an application that oftentimes takes people 45 minutes to fill out. So it's again, compared to some communities, maybe not as steep of a requirement, but compared to a lot of shared housing in Portland, much steeper than what a lot of people are willing to do. And then we have an interview where we talk to them for about an hour, show them the house, and then determine whether it seems like they're a good fit, and gives them an opportunity to evaluate us as well. We have one of the things about being a renter household and being a bunch of people in one house. We offer pretty cheap rent in one of the most desirable neighborhoods in Portland. And so there are a lot of people who are interested in living here, not necessarily because of the community piece. And we want to make sure that people that move in want to do the community element, want to have the shared responsibility, want to invest in relationships with us, want to do the events and the hosting. And so figuring out how to weave those two things together has been and continues to be an ongoing challenge. There are sometimes exceptions to this membership process. There's somebody a few years ago during COVID that came in for a different reason. And then also this is Tamar, who is my 11-month-old baby. And she did not have to go through a interview process either. Having a baby come into the house changed the dynamic in a lot of different ways and has been a very interesting challenge for us to navigate and figure out. Up until then, it was just a household of 20 and 30-year-olds. But it's brought lots of challenges, lots of conflict, and also a lot of joy and fun. And everybody says that she's their favorite housemate. Yeah, and we like to do lots of fun, silly things for our birthday party that we have every year. Some places have land day. Since we don't have land, we have our birthday party for when we signed our lease. We always do a cookie decorating. And since we're called the Hive, we got some cookie cutters that are bee and flower and honey shaped. And yeah, I don't remember if I covered all the questions that I'm supposed to, but I hope that gives you some sense, and I'm happy to answer questions. I wasn't able to track all the comments in there, so I'll take any questions now.
Okay, thank you so much, Lior. Oh my goodness, I'm still smiling from seeing that photo of your baby. Oh, very sweet. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I loved your presentation with all the different photos, and especially liked what you were saying about auxiliary members of your community. We kind of have that in my community too, and I think it's something many communities have, and it's good to talk about how like it's not like a bubble, like we're in it for the relationships, and that can extend beyond the physical space where we live. Beautiful. Okay, so would love to hear questions. So folks, listening, if you could put your questions into the chat, and I will share them with Lior to answer. I know we
Well,
had actually somebody earlier shared, I think it was Matthew, who's interested in starting an intentional community in Oregon, and try and understand what models and figure out what makes the most sense. I'm always amazed, Portland, but Oregon, broadly speaking, has a lot of different intentional communities. Lior, when you were doing your community visits, did you mostly look at ones in Oregon, or was it further afield?
no, it was all over the place. So I went to college in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and that's where I um, initially started. And then after college, I spent 3 years traveling all over the world and staying with a lot of different people, but oftentimes gravitating to different communities. So I saw a lot in Boston, in Tel Aviv, saw some in Thailand, so Ecuador, really all over the place. Um, and then after that, I was working seasonally in um, in and out of Portland, and so then I did get to see a few different models around here as well. But I'll say most of my experience has been with this more urban shared housing type of model. I really only got more knowledge and exposure about the co-housing model after I settled here.
Okay. Okay, great. Good. I love that you did all that traveling and visiting different communities. Does your community have a website or a good way if people want to connect more?
We don't have a website. We've
Mhm.
thought about it in the past, but never quite did that. We do have a Facebook page where we will sometimes post events and things like that. So you're welcome to follow us there. Aside from posting events and when we have openings, we're not very active. Um, and then we have a email address, and you can contact us there. And we have a listing on FIC, so you can get all of our information by looking us up on FIC.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so everyone, if you're curious to learn more, would encourage you go to ic.org and look up the Hive. Okay, now we have a bunch of questions. Let's see here. What would be most valuable? Have you ever had somebody enter your community that turned out not to be a fit? How was that handled?
We have had a few of those,
Okay.
and it was handled in different ways and was complicated in different ways. Actually, right when we started, we had somebody that wasn't a good fit, and it was a struggle for a little while. Um, I personally, in my non-work time, do tenants' rights work, and so have a very strong aversion to like pushing people out of their housing. And other people that live here resonate with that as well. And so it's one of the struggles that we have is that we're a mix of this community, but we're also a place where people live, and this is their housing. Um, we ended up having something where the person was renting the room but not really part of the community for about a year and a half, and then they rejoined, and then things went south, and they started trying to really sabotage stuff, like intentionally break and harass other people until we finally were able to get them to leave. We've had other situations where people weren't good fits in other ways, and we have at times asked them to leave. At times it was clear that they were going to leave eventually, and we just bided our time. Um, we have we've had some different turnover. We had some stability right before COVID started, and then COVID made everything kind of haywire. And then we were about to hit stability again about 2 years after COVID broke out. And then the baby was coming, and that led to a lot of turmoil as well. Um, but we've had intentions and have started conversations for better things for how to do accountability if when there are people that aren't in a variety of ways being a good fit, but we have not figured out the real solution yet. And I think also, like, it's hard no matter what. I've been in lots of different spaces, and I've never heard someone be like, "Oh, I figured out how to make it easy. You have a member that's not a good fit. Like, this is what you do, and it's no problem."
Yeah. Yeah. It's an ongoing question. I'm hearing that. Yeah. Well, appreciate you sharing the different aspects of that struggle. Yeah. Let's see. There were a variety of questions about going deeper a little bit into your model of being a shared house, like who actually owns the property, and how do you split up rent and utilities, and have you thought about buying the building if you haven't bought it already? Those kind of more in the weeds things.
Yeah. So the place is owned by a private landlord. They live also in Portland. Um, I don't think they have any other rentals or few other rentals. And so in some ways it's kind of nice. It's a fairly friendly relationship. I also, when I initially toured the house, realized that I went to high school with them. We didn't know each other from high school, but like they live a few blocks away from my parents. And so there's uh, it feels fairly like friendly and familiar. They're friends with one of my high school friends. I've like bumped into them at shared social things in the past. Um, but it's also in many ways just like a landlord tenant relationship. Everyone is on the lease. Every time someone moves in, they have the opportunity to join the lease. The landlord has been really flexible with. We were on 1-year leases. We now have month-to-month leases, and the landlord has been very flexible with getting people on and off the lease whenever they move in. So everybody has like shared power in that way. In terms of communication, we have a role for one person to be the official communicator with the landlord. I've held that role for a while now, but it's considered to be like one of the many different chores that we have. As far as splitting up rent and utilities, we split equally between all of the members. And we decided that the baby will also pay for utilities. So split equally between everyone. Rent, we initially were splitting just based on rooms. So there's like even split, and then some of the rooms are pretty drastically different. There's some very small rooms and some very large rooms, more or less desirable for different reasons. So that's part of how we split it. But also a few years ago, we adopted something that we called a rent share system. And it's to acknowledge the fact that we have people with pretty drastically different incomes and access to wealth and access to economic privilege. And so there's an opportunity for people to opt to pay more or less. And we kind of have a spreadsheet with some formulas so that when someone opts to pay more or less, it readjusts everybody else's rent automatically. And it's meant to do that general balancing, but also we've had people lose their jobs or lose hours or like all of a sudden get a big raise. And it's an opportunity for people to take those moments to get some relief, like pretty easily ask for everyone to give them some relief or to share the wealth when they come and have more wealth.
Ah, that's beautiful. What do you say that was called again? That
We call it rent shares because
rent shares. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because of the way that we do the math there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great.
And there was also a question about purchasing. There is generally an interest in buying either this house or other houses nearby. Most of the houses around here are valued at about $800,000. And none of us are really able to buy anything at that yet. I may be getting close to that with a mortgage with my partner's income, and both of our parents may be helping us, maybe. So we're like keeping our eyes out. But there was a house down the street that just went up for sale, and within 3 days there were 14 offers and ended up selling for $70,000 over asking price. So the market is a little nuts here, especially in our neighborhood. So we just don't know if and when that'll be a possibility for us.
Gotcha. Okay. But it sounds like, Leor, you and your community is in this for the long haul and want to make this a permanent part of the way you live, even while raising a family. And that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we move on?
Just that a lot of times people reach out to us and ask us about membership and waiting lists. And because everything depends on when rooms open, a lot of times we can just say, I don't know, it could be 2 months, could be 2 years. There is somebody who said that they are intending to move out soon, though. And so if you are interested in living in a community in Portland, feel free to reach out, and there may be an opening soon.
Okay. That's exciting. Great. All right. And I think there were still a few questions maybe we didn't answer. So feel free, Lior, to just go in the comment box and reply to anything we may have missed. And thank you. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. So now I think it's my turn. Oh. So yes, as I shared before, it's been amazing that I've done this event so frequently, but I've never actually presented my community where I am living right now. So here, let me get my presentation ready. And yeah, I'll jump right in. So we are Headwaters Ecovillage, and we're located in Cabot, Vermont, which is in central Vermont. We do have a website, headwatersvermont.org. But before I jump into the whole presentation, I do want to emphasize that we are actually full as a community. So we're not looking for new members. We do have a email list that you can sign up for through the website, but we're not open to new members, but at the same time we are a wonderful community and a place that I love dearly, of course, living here, and would be happy to share with more people who want to explore what it's like. So Headwaters Ecovillage, we started about 15 years ago. And I'm one of the newer residents. So I've only been here for several years. And the community itself has been around for much longer than that. And this is Cabot, Vermont, the small town where we are located. Actually, we're up. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but we're kind of up on the left-hand side of the hill. In this hillside that you're seeing. And then this is the town of Cabot, which was actually established in 1780. So it's one of those old New England villages, which itself is very much a community, intentional, unintentional kind of community. And we're sort of this neighborhood very closely connected to the village itself and all of these other wonderful farms and homesteads and families who live on our hillside. So I'll share a bit more about Cabot before talking about our community. You may know the word Cabot because we are home to Cabot cheddar cheese, which is one of America's oldest cooperatives. It's over 100, maybe even 150 years old. So all of the dairy farms, most of them in our region, all send their milk to this little factory that's located right next to the village of Cabot. And this provides a really strong local economy for a very rural part of Vermont. A lot of these villages here in Vermont have become commuter towns where people don't really, they live there, but then they drive and go somewhere else for work and business. But unlike that, unlike those communities, we actually have a stable economy, including a school that's preschool, elementary, and high school. The graduating class was like 8 students. So really like, cute, tight-knit, small town. This bottom 2 photos are of a neighboring farm. I did some website design work for them, and I get my raw milk and maple syrup from them, and they're just down the way. And here's a map of Vermont. It's a small state, but we're kind of right here in the center. Actually, this yellow area is the Winooski watershed. So we're right at the beginning of the watershed up in a higher elevation, hilly area. And then all of the water feeds into the main river that runs into Burlington, which is our only city in the state of Vermont. So we're called Headwaters Ecovillage because we are at the headwaters of this watershed. And traditionally, this land was Abenaki territory. They didn't so much live here, but would come to this region to do their hunting in the summer months. And because of being headwaters, we have a lot of water, obviously, which is a blessing, but also can be a problem when we have flooding events, which unfortunately are becoming more frequent. We had a pretty significant one over the summer, and a lot of villages in our area lost homes, lost bridges. We were very fortunate in our community just to have a root cellar collapse. Nobody got hurt, and our town was able to save our bridge. But yeah, quite the experience of really what it means to come together as a community in the face of these different weather events and how we can create true resiliency. All right, so that was my little spiel about the region where we're located. Now I'll talk about our community itself. So Headwaters Ecovillage, as I mentioned, has been around for 15 years. We are on about 14 acres, but surrounded by farmland and woodland. So we have access to actually a significant amount of acreage for walking and biking and cross-country skiing in the winter. And the community was started by our founder, who purchased the land through help of an inheritance that she got, and then really wanted to turn it into a community. So went through the process of subdividing a part of it and keeping what you're looking at in this photo, our big common space, which has our garden and a pond, our greenhouses, a little sauna, and all of that. And I'll also mention, of course, here this photo in the corner, which is what it looks like right now. Actually, we're getting a snowstorm today, even though it's the beginning of April, but that's Vermont for you. We truly have 6 months of winter. So most of my photos are of the summer season, but we also have, of course, a lot of snow and long winters. All right. A big part of our community is growing food. We have this big garden. We also have chickens. So food production, I think, is one of the most amazing things. We try to follow loosely permaculture principles and really have a model of like everyone pitches in to help, and we try to grow more than enough. So there's always an abundance for people to feel free taking from the garden. Right now we have a way overabundance of chicken eggs. So everyone has their little, carton of chicken eggs that we fill up every day. And today is a Thursday, so it's my day on the chicken rotation to care for them and make sure the greenhouse is watered and everything. So it's fun to be able to do that as a community and have access to so much abundance that would be way too much work for me to do on my own, but is made possible through community living. You can see here just more photos of our gardens. We have an earthship greenhouse that's dug into the side of a hill. And we also have this hoop house that we got through a grant that really allows us to extend the growing into the shoulder seasons of the year. I didn't mention this before, but we are 8 households. So 8 households who live in the community itself. But as Lior was mentioning, we have many, many auxiliary community members and people who come to our gatherings and our parties. That's a big part of our culture, is having celebrations together, gathering around the fire. Because there's so many kids here, I think we have 12 adults and, I don't know, at least that many kids. It's hard to keep track of them all. They have, a birthday party at least once a month. So there's always like a reason to gather as a community and celebrate. That's one of the things that I love is just, I open my door most days and I can hear the kids off playing somewhere, playing a different game, or people just casually, informally meeting and gathering. We don't have a common house in our community, which is one of the things that may make us different than the like co-housing model. We don't have a common house. We would like to have one. If eventually we can save enough money to build one that could also have some rental space, but it's not in the cards for the moment. For the moment, we just have our sauna and we have our fireplace to gather around. And we also are a community in which when you join, you buy your land that your house is on, and then you actually build your house. So these are photos of some of the structures on the property. And that's one of the things that makes us really unique and also different than the co-housing model where everyone, all the homes are typically built at once and it's kind of a planned development. Ours has happened very organically with different people coming in at different phases and building a variety of structures. And the cool thing, though, is that we have all of that knowledge in the community and people with tools and experience and willing to help each other to tackle projects like this. So I too have been building my house, still building, 4 years in the making, but it's getting closer and closer. It is a passive solar designed home. So it has a big greenhouse along the southern wall. And the inside has a variety of like hempcrete and light straw clay and plaster. This is another photo of the home, and was an incredible community building experience to do this project. Actually, this photo in the bottom right is of a neighboring intentional community in Vermont, and they came over one day to help me build some of it. And just so cool to see the collaborations among neighbors and family and friends. So, what else can I share with you? Because we are such a small community of 8 households, that allows us a good deal of flexibility when it comes to decision making. Our ideal scenario is that we have enough conversation among ourselves around the fireplace, that by the time a topic reaches when we actually have our meetings once a month, it's pretty well solidified, what the different views are, and we can reach a decision more easily. We've tried sociocracy and some other methods, but we found it was just a little bit too much structure for us. So right now we use a loose consensus, and then for financial decisions, if we don't reach consensus, then we have a voting majority fallback. And then I'll share a little bit more about our legal structure, which is that, as I mentioned, we have a part of the community where the homes are clustered, that you own the land. So I actually have a deed to the land underneath my home. It's a tiny postage stamp, and that's where I've built my home. And and then this part is a HOA, so a homeowners association. That's how we manage things. Very different than the typical HOA, but that's what it is technically. And then we have our common land, which is most of the land. It's about the 10 acres, and that is owned as an S Corp. We're exploring changing the structure, but essentially each household has an equal share, equal ownership stake in that common land that has our pond and our garden. So that's the model that we're working with right now. And yeah, I think I'll wrap up here. And once again, there's our website, headwatersvermont.org. We're not, because we're a residential community and we have a lot of young kids and families here, we're not very open to visitors. We don't do a lot of public events, but we will be participating in the Vermont Ecovillage tour. That'll be July 6th to the 13th, going to my community and many other communities here in Vermont. We have quite a number of them, but for this tour, I think we're going to limit it just to, I think, 10 or so communities over the course of the 8 days. So if you want to check that out, ecovillagetours.com/Vermont. And there you have it. That was my presentation. I'll stop sharing my screen so that I can see the questions. And yeah, let's see here. I might even welcome some help here if Lior or others, if you see some questions that really deserve a lot of attention. Let me see. Oh, so Matthew asks, how many hours of labor is required weekly to contribute to the community? We don't have any labor requirements. So no requirements, but in general, there's kind of a willingness or a desire to pitch in different ways, and it changes with time. We had a family move in recently, and for like the first year, they weren't really volunteering very much, but now they're starting to feel a little more stable, and they're starting to pitch in. And one of the couples is now joined our chicken rotation that we have of caring for the chickens 1 day a week. So it varies. It also varies with the seasons. There's times of the year where a lot more work is needed to get done, in which case we call for a community work party and we tackle projects in the garden together. And that tends to happen in the summer. We may have 2 work parties a month, which are optional. And then in the winter, we don't really have any work parties. Let's see. So 8 households here. Let me see. Let me pull this up. 8 households have been built over 15 years. How were they built? By community members, outside contractors, or a mix? Yeah, great question, Will. Yeah, it has been a mix. Let's see. For the most part, they have been built by the community members themselves, or like for my house, I mean, I built the house in the sense that I was the general contractor. I did subcontract my neighbor, whose house I'm literally looking at outside my window. He did the foundation and the framing, but then I myself, with help of many family and friends, did the rest of the work. So that kind of thing is pretty common. The only person in our community who did not build their home themselves was one of our neighbors actually got a Vermont, which is a Vermont modular home with solar panels and designed to be more sustainable. And that house came on a big trailer and was parked, and there that person had their home. I'll also mention too that we are very mixed income. So actually a lot of families in the community who don't have a lot of resources, and so have been very creative with how they house themselves, starting maybe with a yurt for a few years and slowly building their houses over time. We have been able, just internally among ourselves, to support each other with friendly loans when needed for, helping to get a mortgage or helping to make housing possible. So I'll just mention that. And then the type of dwelling really is a mix as well. There's a leaning towards the more natural eco kind of construction, and a lot of experimentation, I would say. A lot of creativity in the home designs here. Okay. All right, so I think I'll just take 1 or 2 more, and then we'll move on. Does an auxiliary member contribute financially or just with labor? Yeah, David, auxiliary member, I don't know how Lior relates to that term, but we don't use that term. It's not like an official role. It's just more like the relationships are people who we're close with and we share with, and they come to parties and we go to their parties. And it's not something we've set up formally, although some communities do have that more formal. I see Will asking about the intentionality to keep it small. Part of it is due to the constraints of the land where we are. We're at about max capacity for this land with all the food production that we want to do. We have we have considered purchasing land surrounding and maybe growing that way, but really what we've talked about more so is helping another community, and there are actually quite a few emerging communities in our region that we want to support, but we don't ourselves want to expand further. It kind of feels like enough to manage for the moment. And and we haven't had very much turnover at all. So Beth has been asking about how does your group handle people who aren't a good fit? Our membership process when we had openings is a very long process of coming to work parties, really getting to know the people here, and then a significant financial contribution to buy land and then build your house. It's a big investment. So people really, want to make sure, and we want to make sure that it is a good fit. We've hardly had any turnover, and no one's really left because it just wasn't a good fit. There was always other outside circumstances. So, okay, great. And Susie, how do I find out more about emerging communities in Vermont? I would say join our Vermont Ecovillage tour. You can also look on ic.org and see the map of communities. I often see new Vermont communities posting on the directory there. So, okay, and I'll try to address the rest of these questions by commenting in the comments. But that's it for me. Okay, thank you all so much for listening. And now we will go to Village Hearth. Thank you so much, Nan and Margaret, for your patience. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to hear about Village Hearth co-housing. I think we might have even had you on one of our events, but like years ago. And so I'm so excited to hear the update because I'm sure a lot has been happening in recent years.
Great. All right,
Okay.
I'm going to share screen and let's see if this works. Okay, here we go.
Welcome home to Village Hearth Co-Housing. I'm Marg, and my wife, this is not my wife sitting next to me, but my wife Pat and I, 10 years ago, we were getting ready to retire and we needed a place to land. We knew that we needed to avoid getting isolated. And so we were looking for community. We wanted LGBTQIA, and we were absolutely looking for accessibility. So we were couldn't find anything that was already here. So we were looking for professionals. We found them. Looking for land. We found it. We got it built. And in 2020, it took about 6 years. We were moving in with 27 other homeowners. We have 28 homes here. And now we're living in a beautiful Village Hearth co-housing, which is thriving and vibrant. We wanted accessibility, and you saw a lovely, easy, accessible sidewalk from our driveway up to our houses. So we love waking up every morning to birds calling. I saw a hummingbird yesterday for the first one of the season. So we have a lovely place to wake up to. Not only birds, but I wake up to my neighbors often on the front porches. This is the woman who lives across from me. She has a fantastic giggle, and that's one of my favorite things about co-housing is knowing what's happening on the lane right across from me. And you might not just have one person on your front porch. Sometimes it ends up being a whole group of people on your front porch, and that's what's fun also. We individualize our front yards and our front porches so you can have as much foliage or as many sculptures and decorations. We have bird baths and bird feeders, and it's just a delight for you and your neighbors. We love to do a lot of gardening here. We have raised beds that we all share. We have 4 of those. And as you see, it can be a group effort. We eat out of those gardens all year round. All summer we have traditional garden vegetables. And in North Carolina, all winter we get lettuce out of those gardens for our Thursday night community meals. You can't grow lettuce in the summer in North Carolina because it's too hot here, but we get a lot of it in the winter. We have landscape teams. One of our work teams is landscapers, and they work very hard all the time to keep everything lovely here. But from time to time, we have work days, which is when people like me who don't know anything about plants can help a little bit. And they even give us some training on telling us which are the weeds so we know what to pull. And the most important thing is relaxing afterwards. That's the mandatory part after all that work. So our homes are all accessible. We are built in groups of 4. We have everything is 1 story here. And we have the set of 4 homes are across from another set of 4 homes with the sidewalk in between. And we call that a lane. And at the end of each of those two sets of 4 is a gathering node. And so it's easy to manage and to get around. I use wheelchairs, so I'm very happy to have this accessibility. And we'll talk a little bit more about the gathering node later. Our homes have these beautiful wide doorways that are 36 inches wide, which makes it accessible front door and back door for any kind of thing that needs to get through a doorway, like if you are bringing in some furniture or something that's on a dolly or a cart or we have these rolling wagons that many of us share and use. Like if you're bringing in your groceries from your car, you can just roll them right in your front door and roll them right up to your refrigerator and unload them. It's much easier than carrying in lots of bags. So our homes also have these big full window glass in the doors in the front and the back, so you get lots of extra light. We have vaulted ceilings and skylights, so you get plenty of natural light. And our homes look really airy and spacious with better visibility and lower energy costs. The kitchens have lower countertops, and we even have wider kitchen sinks, and they're shallower so that they're easier to use. The baths are also very accessible with the choice to put in a shower door or use a shower curtain, whatever is your preference. The shower walls and around the bath, around the toilet are already what they call rail ready, so that you can put up grab bars wherever you need them, because people are all different heights and they need their a grab bar at maybe a different place. So they're not preset. You can put them in where you need them. And the toilet is even what's called comfort height. So it's just right for people who are 55 plus, which is what our community is. We have 15 acres here, and we cleared 5 acres to put all of our homes on, but we have 10 acres that were left natural with lots of beautiful terrain. So this is Tom and his dog. Tom made some beautiful trails, and we enjoy them a lot for walking the dogs or just having some peaceful time in nature. We have a beautiful little stream that runs through part of the property, and we have the benefit of these boulders and rocks from leftover from construction when we were putting our power lines and all the utility lines underground. And it turned out to be a wonderful place for foxes to build their dens. So we see their little faces and see them running around the property sometimes. So that's a joy. And we have a lovely meadow space that's a good place to gather. And here's one of the gathering nodes. This this group of folks have put a little fire pit in theirs, and you never know when there's going to be something going on at the end of the lane. So our common house is kind of the hub of the community. We have, as you see, a beautiful terrace with we have umbrellas out there. We spend as much time on the terrace as we can, and you'll see those umbrellas. Got to tell you about making decisions with 28 homes. That's a lot of people to make decisions when you are working with consent. And the umbrellas are, if you can tell, there's 6 different colors. And it took more than one meeting to decide on those colors, just to say we had to decide whether we wanted 6 different colors or whether we wanted them all the same color or we wanted them in sets of 2 colors or whatever. But it took a while. But so that's just to say that it takes time to make sure that everybody's wishes are heard. And but it works over after a while, and we've gotten to know each other a lot better over time. But we have beautiful umbrellas. So we have a fabulous automatic door opener into our common house, so it's easy for everyone to get in. And as you see, our common house is more than just a kitchen. We have a beautiful gourmet kitchen that everyone loves to use for common meals and for special cooking and baking projects. We have a meal team here ready to serve their meal to our group for our traditional Thursday night dinners. Our meal squads, we have divided the whole community into 5 meal squads that we do on a rotating basis. Each squad gets to plan their menu. They shop, prep, and cook, set up, and clean. So they do everything, but just once every 6 weeks. Even people like me who do not do anything in the kitchen, who don't know how to do things in the kitchen, I get to wrap the silverware, wrap it in the napkins, and I get to send out the emails inviting people to our meal every time our squad comes up for our time. And if I had opted out and not joined our meal squad, I would have missed out on all the fun. So I'm really glad we're doing it this way. We have, this is one of the meals on our terrace that we try to use for meetings and games and anything we can. So it's a great place to be. We celebrate anything and everything, as some of the other groups have said. This is a winter solstice celebration, celebrating the return of the light. And here's a Kentucky Derby Day celebration, complete with hats and betting and watching the ponies run. And this is a Sunday fun day where we're doing vision boards for the year. And this is a tea dance, because you never know who's going to be dancing in the common house. And this is one of our meetings. We have a beautiful dining room that can be used for many uses, but it's important to meet together and make our decisions and learn new things. We also use that space for exercise and yoga and cards and games and who knows what else is going to happen there. House concerts is something that we had always wanted to do, and we've managed to have 3 wonderful house concerts that we've asked the neighbors and the local gay community to join us, because it's turned out to be a wonderful space that we can share. That's a safe space for the LGBTQ community in general. And we've hosted Tret Fury, Deidre McCalla, and this is a local folk duo that came most recently. This is 2 of our members who went to our local Pride event. We have a very active LGBTQ community in Durham and the whole Triangle area, actually, which is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. This area has 12 colleges and universities. It is an area where there is more to do than you can ever do, and it's exciting, and there's always something new to interest you. This is me and one of our members, Tammy, at a Duke women's basketball game, place we like to go to a lot. There's concerts, Broadway touring companies, the Durham Bulls, local and professional theater, lectures, museums, music, and restaurants galore. There's world-class medical schools here at Duke and UNC Chapel Hill, which is just down the road. And there's access to excellent medical care very close by with Duke Hospital. And we're even close to the Duke Regional, which is just within 10 minutes of our land. You see many state parks and county parks and forests. There's nature preserves, botanical gardens, lakes, sculpture gardens, and even a lemur center. Botanical gardens, just everything. The Sarah P. Duke Gardens are known nationwide. Rivers, kayaking, just about everything that you could possibly want. We share our land with the animals who were here before, and many of them are happy enough here to share their time with us. Here's a monarch caterpillar and some Canada geese, mergansers, and we see deer often, foxes, hawks, bats, owls. It's a really gentle and quiet place to be. There's a twilight picture, and there's our lights, and even the moon came out that night. That's our common house from across the village green. Thanks for listening. There's how to contact us. We actually do have a house or two that are available for resale right now. So we'd be happy to talk to you with more information and
a visit.
And a visit. We love to have visitors because a 55 plus community is going to naturally have turnover. People find that their circumstances change in life and they need to find a different way to live, for medical reasons or whatever. And so we're always happy to have folks come and visit us, whether we have homes available or not, but we do right now. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Marg. Really appreciate it. Love seeing the beautiful photos and especially that last one with the moon and the common house.
Isn't that pretty? Nan did all the photo work. I'm just the
good job. Yeah.
You can see all of our photos on our Facebook page.
Okay. Nice.
And so, yeah, there's a few questions that I think I want to make sure we can clarify. So
yeah. Do you want to start with what is your process for membership?
Sure. Do you want to answer that question?
Sure. Well, the first thing we do is we have some online things that we like people to do. We have an introductory Zoom class that we like people to come to. That's just an hour that we call a meet and greet. And it gives the basics of co-housing and a village hearth, of what the expectations are and what the community is all about, that it is a participatory community and that we are 55 plus, and we are in North Carolina, we are in the suburbs, we're not in the center of the city, the kind of things that people ask often. So sometimes those basic questions are things that people can find out all in one fell swoop. So that's a good thing. Also, I'm happy to talk to anyone by phone, initially, if you've got a lot of questions. The other thing is I'm happy to explain what homes are available, if there are any that are on the market right now, the prices, the sizes, and all those kind of things. The other thing is people need to know you can't buy one of these homes remotely. You need to come to the land. You need to walk through these homes. You need to be on this land for a while. And you need to meet the people. It's not just about the physical homes. It's about the people who would be your neighbors. We live very close to each other. You need to care about these people. Are these people who you would like to be your friends? Because you're going to be, you're going to hear these people laughing and talking and walking past your house, and you're going to want to know who's sick, or you're going to want them to know if there's something going on with you. You're entwined in each other's lives without being busybodies. You're going to be good neighbors, and you need to know that.
I think relationship, one of the sayings that we have here is relationship is first. Relationship is primary. And I think we really work hard to look at collaborative culture versus competitive culture. And that's hard for people who are 55 and older, because we've had more years of living in, the structure that we've all grown up with. So for us, one of the things that I've loved about co-housing is I have learned so much more being here for 4 years about myself and about how I interact with others than I did all the years. And I taught it at university and I learned none of that. And here in 4 years, I have had such self-growth because of this incredible, caring, empathic community. And yes, every Thursday night, I saw a lot of people because there was something that you said that it was because your group only has to cook once every 6 weeks. Thank God we only have to cook every 6 weeks, but every Thursday night we have a community meal. I wanted to clarify that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a rotation. Yeah.
No, there were some questions in the. It's great, and I love that I don't have to cook for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But we do. So the concerts have been amazing. People coming from the community, other LGBTQ people and allies coming to the community. We can only fit 40-some people in there, but we try to have them more often.
Yeah.
And we go to there's 10 other co-housing in this area, in the Triangle area. And there are other co-housings that we we collaborate with, we meet with, we share resources, not resources so much, but mental resources, ideas with, and many of those have house concerts too. So we go to their house concerts.
Oh, great. I love that. We do a lot of that also in Vermont. We have actually an emerging network of Vermont communities. And I heard Leora mention that as well, kind of connection with other communities. And I think that's one of the cool things. As more communities develop, there's more inter-community connection and collaboration.
Right.
Oh, great. Okay, there was a few questions here about dogs and cats in your community. Pets, one of the common questions.
Sure.
Since she has 2 big dogs. So
yeah. So
that a cat.
that white Pyrenee, that Great Pyrenee is mine, as well as a German Shepherd that you didn't see. We have dogs. I mean, we have cats. My cat, I was out there at 8:30 last night trying to find my cat because we bring her in at night. So we have said that we would prefer cats to be indoors, but we have a grand parenting clause where if your cat was an outdoor cat, then we're not going to try and change that cat's behavior. But if I get new kittens, then in fact they would be indoors. But we're not going to try and change a cat's behavior because everyone knows that doesn't go well. The dogs, they bark. Nobody, I mean, they don't, honestly, no, everyone is so kind. And I have to say this, my 2 huge dogs that live with me in 650 square foot of space, because, we try this environmentally eco-friendly small space. They just think that this is all of their house, all of their property. And we just have a lot of people living, more like the Hive, even though we have separate units. Everyone owns their own unit, but our dogs don't understand that. All of the dogs here just think they belong to everyone else. And everyone just gets along really well. We do ask people to use leashes until you get back to the back 10 acres, and then our dogs run free. So I hope that answered that question. Nobody has had a problem with anyone. And I think this goes to the next question. We really value conversation. We value, discussion, and knowing that everyone, is here kind of to really live together. That's a real commitment to live together. So if I would have a problem with someone's dog, I would just go and have that conversation with them. And then that social contract of that person would be, oh, I didn't realize that was bothering you. And so there's a social contract that really develops here, and people just work to make sure that people collaborate and help each other out. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nan and Marge. And I think that question that Kat asked there at the end is something we can do as a group. I'd love to hear everyone's answer to that question about tools and strategies that help us live more collaboratively. But I do want to acknowledge that we're coming into the final 10 minutes of our time together. So thank you so much, Village Hearth. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And thank you, everyone, for your great questions. I love all those questions and comments. I hope this has been valuable for you. We will, of course, be doing this event again in May at the first Thursday. Same time, same place. Hope you'll join. Hope anyone who lives in a community will reach out if you're interested in presenting about your community on one of our future events. And I know we got to see Leor's baby there briefly. Maybe the baby's coming back.
Hi, Tamara. Cute.
It's her nap time, or it was her nap time, and she went past it. So my dad was here to help watch her, and she's not willing to put up with Grandpa right now while she's so tired.
Yeah, well, she needs to be over here. This is where all the fun is, right?
Yeah.
Your first live streaming appearance. Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to post this question here and would love to, any last thoughts you have that you want to share before we depart. Can be an answer to this question or something else that's alive for you. We'll just popcorn style. Go ahead, folks there. Yeah.
You have our mute off. Okay. For me personally, I mean, Nan said that she felt like she's grown. The biggest thing for me is that I found myself trying to write long emails to people individually if I was having something that I wanted to try to explain. And it's like, I refuse to try to write long emails. It's like, if I have something I want to talk to somebody about, I either pick up the phone or I walk or go down, the sidewalk and talk to somebody face to face. And that has been so good for me because I was always the kind of person who just kind of scurried in the corner and said, okay, I'll just do whatever you say. And it's been good to talk to people, try to find out their perspective. It's like, what's going on? Why would you say something like that? Or, what can I do? Help me understand this better. And that has made all the difference in being just upfront with people and being straightforward and understanding instead of just getting my feelings hurt or whatever about anything. And it's worked out much and works out great.
And we do have teams. So we have a care team that also is moving towards mediation. We look at various models. We've used sociocracy, light. So we've looked at sociocracy. We look at nonviolent communication. We look at there's a wonderful group out there on the West Coast called Equity Matters. Some of the concepts there, and I think that our teams really help us. We're looking at values, rewriting our values that we wrote in 2016 before we moved in. Now we're moving in. So I think it's paying attention to answer this question, paying attention and not letting it slide by, but actually really addressing issues as they come up and understanding that everyone has, that not everyone will agree, but we can align ourselves at least in terms of wanting to come to a solution.
Great. Thank you. Leor, do you have thoughts on this question about tools and strategies to help us live more collaboratively, or what you use in your community?
I think one big thing for us that I found to be very helpful is just that we have all sorts of structures and we continue to build structures. We don't assume that Yeah, some people that come in like don't have very much experience with shared living, and so we don't assume that everyone will just be able to figure everything out on their own. So we have weekly meetings that where anybody can add any agenda item. Um, we have chore systems, and when they stop working, we talk about how to make them work better. We have like very transparent finances and lots of financial entanglement. Um, and so I think all of those different pieces, anytime we have something that we're not sure how to handle, we come up with a shared agreement, and then we have something that is hanging up in our kitchen and anybody can look at if they are trying to remember what we agreed to. I found that to be really helpful in navigating sharing so much space. I think beyond that, the fact that we push ourselves to really challenge the individualistic nature that a lot of us grow up in. So the rent share systems that I mentioned before has been really interesting because people use it in various ways, but at the end of the day, people end up paying pretty similar rent to the rent that they would have paid anyway most of the time. But the fact that there's an opportunity to pay more or pay less gives a different feeling to it. It's not you're being forced to pay this amount because we told you so. You have agency in it, and therefore, and you know that your choices are impacting other people and that other people's choices are impacting you. So all of those different ways of sharing our resources and our efforts, I think, end up creating a lot of ties.
Mm-hmm. Great. I love that.
And one more thing, the trainings by the FIC really help. Go to those trainings.
Absolutely. Here. Very good. Yeah, I guess for my part, I could just build off of this idea of sharing and fostering a culture of sharing. I think that's one of the things that I continue to struggle with maybe a little bit because it's such a departure from how I grew up, where, if you needed something, you go and you buy that thing for yourself. But here it's like, wait a minute, maybe I don't need my own lawnmower. Maybe I can ask to share. Or, if I need somebody to watch my cat, I can just ask. And people are really happy to contribute because we view it as a way to build bonds. It's not a weakness when you ask for help or ask if you need, sugar for your cake, or, just all these little things. There's probably hundreds of examples in the course of a month, moments when I could, and I sometimes do, but sometimes I feel a little awkward because there is that stereotype around, oh no, you should be able to take care of yourself. But I think with community living, it's really part of the paradigm shift. Part of what we're moving towards is getting comfortable asking and also giving too, and feeling invested in the lives of your neighbors, because you know that when we share more, we can all live more rich and fulfilling lives. And we don't need to rely as much on consumerism and buying and having this more hyper individualized way of going about things. So, and then there was Lior. I'm imagining baby needs some attention. Very sweet. I love seeing that intergenerational component here just within our conversation, and getting to see the variety of communities out there. Great. Yeah. An appliance library, seeing that in the chat. Great idea. Beautiful. Okay, I think we will wrap it up there. We are at time. Once again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Lior at the Hive, and thank you to Village Hearth Co-Housing. And thank you also to Headwaters Ecovillage. Beautiful. All right, good to see you. Take care.